So, Christina, big overview, big question. How has the selling of linear TV changed over time and kind of what's going on now?
Yeah, so the arc of the transformation of television started many years ago, and it will continue into the future. It's when we think about the transformation of television, it really started with data-driven TV and ways of bringing data models and data-driven buying and selling and planning to television. And some of these models have been deployed in digital for many years, but digital and television have been delivered differently. And so what you had is new ways of buying TV, like data-driven linear and addressable TV. So cut to now, where these models have been well adopted by the industry, have experienced tremendous growth, even in spite of declining linear. You still see growth in advanced TV. But now you have COVID, right? And the way that people are consuming TV content has been on an arc of transformation, as I mentioned, and that's only accelerated. And so now we're really focused, following the customer to these new streaming types of delivery models. And so as we think about television and what this means is we need to be thinking about how we bring how we kind of bring together the advanced buying platforms like data-driven linear and addressable to streaming so that it can be thought of as one. And you really see these, like, I think that this year has been, again, this is an arc, right? And so this transformation has occurred over a number of years. But this year in particular, with the launch of HBO Max, Disney Plus, and the announcement around Discovery Plus, and I'm probably missing some, the focus at media owners has really started to shift in terms of the leadership and just generally what they're investing in is around streaming. And so data-driven linear and addressable obviously continue to be very important because they're still experiencing growth. But we need to be thinking about how to bring this all together across addressable, linear, and digital.
So, what are some of the challenges about doing that? Is it in planning? Is it on measurement? Is it kind of operational? What are some of the challenges in sort of kind of making this whole new scenario work?
Yeah. So as we think about how do we make it, we can say things like convergence, everything we do should be focused on convergence, and any new major initiative or anything on a roadmap in 2021 needs to be thinking, needs to take into consideration convergence of digital with linear. But the reality is that it's very difficult, right? And so the way that TV has been executed in terms of the planning, the measurement, the plans themselves, the reporting on those plans, the attribution has been in silos, right? So you have one model, which is more of a broadcast one-to-many model, which is the data-driven linear model, and then the other model, which is more digital and addressable, which is focused on one-to-one. And what we need in order to execute convergence well, to be able to have one plan, one view of reach across, of the audience across all channels, and one report that kind of wraps it all together. What we really need is a common approach to data, common identity framework, and common ways to measure. And so one of the ways that we've seen companies addressing this is really having two plans that are, one which is the digital plan and one that is the linear plan, and have them loosely connected. It's hard to do one plan, right, for all of these other these reasons that I talked about. But what we really need to do, and what we're working on now, is how do we make it one plan, really, truly one plan that is fully integrated and responsive to one, so that the digital, let's say, is responsive to what's happening in television and vice versa. And that's really like where the magic is, I think, for next year as we think about where we're heading. It's making, as opposed to having, again, two plans that are loosely coupled of digital and TV, where you have maybe the same audience target, but don't necessarily have a read of, how that person is viewing across supply types. Moving to a world where these are actually, one view of that viewer.
Christina, and what about for the sellers? Of course, you work not just with WarnerMedia, but there are a number of big sellers that work with Xandr. What are some of the challenges from the seller's perspective? And what do they need to be doing?
Well, so I think it starts, when you think about sellers, sellers are really focused on their customers, and their primary customers are the viewers, right? And so for sellers, it's about making sure that their audiences are delighted with their content and have the ability to view that content across, sort of in whatever format the customer wants to, or wants to consume that in. And so ideally, buyers also want to think about it this way too, right? Like, it's one person and they could be viewing my content across lots of different, lots of different types of distribution channels, but distribution shouldn't matter, right? It really shouldn't. The challenge for sellers is making this a reality, right? Making it so that distribution channel isn't driving everything. And so what we are focused on at Xandr through our technology is helping them manage inventory across different supply types. And so this spans linear, addressable, and digital, so that they can more easily deliver on the needs of the buyers, which are ultimately driven by the needs of consumers. So you have, from a seller's perspective, they need to be able to have a place, where they can understand, how do I kind of forecast what my audience is going to be across linear. Now, many of them have had ways of doing this for some time. So linear isn't necessarily an issue, but now we have sellers who are gaining addressable impressions through deals with distributors. And so helping the sellers try to understand, okay, what's my estimated audience across my new addressable inventory? And how does this marry and relate to the inventory that I have in digital? And how do I kind of bring this all together to value an audience across, all of my formats, and package it together and price it as one? So it's a real challenge for sellers who are entering into the space and want to have the ability to, yield manage their portfolio, rather than kind of yield manage within each silo. And so that kind of portfolio level yield management and inventory management is, I think, what the sellers are focused on, and where we're working and have some of our deepest partnerships to be focused on solving these challenges.